Let these losers say whatever they want.
I believe in you.
You can do it.
God had made promises to Abraham about the covenant coming through his son. As far as Abraham's reasoning, it was God made his promises about this son. Therefore, even if I kill him, God is going to raise him from the dead.
Let these losers say whatever they want.
I believe in you.
You can do it.
All right, just a little fun there with the Be a Chad from Spinning Remixes. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. Maybe some of you haven't. I guess I can't just let Jai and DOC have all the fun with the Spinning Remix intros there. So anyway, I don't know if that'll be a regular thing, but hey, Be a Chad, everybody. No, thanks guys for joining the live. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Let me just kind of give you a quick intro on how things are going to go. Don't come back into the studio yet, Muslims or non-Christians. I'm opening this up for non-Christians as well. First, I'm going to give a presentation on why I think the book of Acts just kind of throws a whole monkey wrench into the standard Islamic narrative. So I want to be able to give my reasons first before I just kind of like let you guys come up and just be a free-for-all. So I'm going to give my case first, and then anybody can come up who is a non-Christian. I do specify Muslims. I'm directing this at Muslims, but if you're a non-Christian and you think Paul is a heretic, or even if you say you are some kind of a non-traditional Christian and you think Paul is a false apostle, you are also welcome to come up. So hopefully it only take like 30, 45 minutes. I do have a lot of material. So without further ado, we should probably just jump right into it so we can get through it, so we can get into the conversations. And so the title of this is The Book of Acts Destroys the Standard Islamic Narrative. Why does it do that? Well, Acts shows that contrary to the standard, it shows that the whole standard Islamic narrative is bunk, is what I'm trying to say. It records the very early declarations of the death and resurrection of Jesus from the apostles and their willingness to suffer for it. And it is written by the same author who wrote the Gospel of Luke. And so if we have evidence that Acts is a very strong, reliable, historically trustworthy document, then that's evidence really that boosts Luke's credibility on a whole, that he is the same author who's given you this reliable information. Why would he all of a sudden switch it up and just make up a bunch of stories to fill out a gospel? Also, bear in mind that Luke is probably using other sources, including Mark, we know for sure, and then possibly even Matthew a little bit, or maybe they used a common source, Matthew and Luke. But either way, he is vetting these sources. He thinks that they're trustworthy and reliable. And if this is the kind of person that Luke shows himself to be, then we have good reasons to trust him, right? And so Acts also shows that Paul, and this is the key punchline here, was accepted by the apostles, preached the same doctrine as they did, and actually, contrary to the standard Islamic narrative, was a Torah-observant Jew, and not a corrupter of Christianity that was telling him to forsake the law, and he's just going to see an opportunity, seize it, and reinvent Jesus into some sort of God. That's not what the book of Acts shows. Now, I can't just say, well, Acts is inspired, and so, trust me, bro. I'm going to give you guys evidence that the book of Acts is a highly reliable and trustworthy account. And I'm also going to point you guys to some resources that you can get if you want to study this topic in further depth on your own. I also have a bunch of videos, short videos, on my series on undesigned coincidences and how history backs the Bible that you guys can pick up. And so, get up to speed, go through a bunch of those. But this is why I like doing these lives. It gives me an opportunity to get into some deep dives and have conversations with you all and answer any questions. If you have questions throughout the stream, send them in a super chat and I will do my best to answer. Or you don't have to do super chat. Just type Q-. That kind of helps me see your question. If you can't, don't want to do a super chat for whatever reason, can't afford it, I will try and answer as I go throughout. I'll take pauses here and there to answer those. Okay. So first of all, we have the we passages. Now, this is where the narrative kind of switches up, and all of a sudden, you see this in Acts 16 and you see it in Acts 20, where all of a sudden it's about what we did. I got some kids in the background making some weird noises, kind of threw me off there. I apologize. But anyways, all of a sudden things switch up in the narrative and you see we. And it looks like somebody is accompanying Paul who's writing all this information down, right? And so these we passages start off in Acts 16 and likely point to the author being present. Now, New Testament scholar Dr. Craig Keener notes that the we actually stops for a little bit when Paul hits Philippi later in 16, but it actually picks up again in Acts chapter 20 when Paul swings back through Troas. This suggests that the author stayed in Philippi and rejoined Paul later. All right, we're going to see a lot of evidence that Luke was a traveling companion of the Apostle Paul. This is Craig Keener in his commentary on the book of Acts. He says it's no coincidence that the we narratives provide the most detailed accounts in Acts. The missionary's brief time in Philippi receives more detailed attention than 18 months in Corinth and as many as 2 years in Asia, that scholars often attribute to many accurate details of travel in chapter 21, and we'll go through some of those accurate details, and that Paul's, and they point to this as being reflective of like somebody writing a diary, basically, and that Paul's 2 years in Judea are the most detailed portions of the book. Now, what's interesting about this is if Paul's in Judea, Luke is in Judea with Paul for 2 years, while part of that is while Paul is imprisoned, right? He would have ample opportunity to talk to the apostles. And in Acts chapter 21 and verse 8, it says that it mentions that James and all the apostles, all the elders, let's be more precise, were present, which we could presume probably included some apostles. And so this would have given Luke an opportunity to interview James, Jesus' own brother, some of the disciples, and get information for his gospel. And so the first line of evidence that we're going to be talking about is external confirmations. These are places in the Gospels and Acts, of course we're focusing on Acts here, where they mention things in passing, facts about the historical setting. Now, it's neat when we find things in like Josephus or say Tacitus about Jesus being crucified. But let's be real for just a second. A lot of that stuff could have just been picked up by Christians in the area, or Christians that maybe Josephus heard about, from a friend of a friend, or just him knowing the message that they were spreading. And the same could actually go for Tacitus. And so apologists, I don't recommend, and I've made this mistake in the past, don't oversell the evidence of, well, we know Jesus was crucified, and Muslims might even like me for saying this. I'm just trying to be honest here. Don't use Tacitus and Josephus as these are my strong evidence that Jesus was crucified. What we're actually going to be talking about in this presentation for a little bit is something way better. And that's these casual little details of history that actually are very well explained, that the person who's writing this is a companion of Paul, or is present, is close up to the facts, is very knowledgeable, is a reliable person. Luke gets a ton of hard things right. Somebody asks, why is the soldier blushing? Because it's just all the abundance of amazing information that destroys his worldview, I guess. I don't know. It's just a Wojak. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know why he's blushing. But anyways, so now what's impressive about these kind of details is Luke didn't have access to Google, right? He didn't have access to Wikipedia. There weren't modern local libraries, even with card catalogs and all that other stuff that your parents grew up with, right? Or if you're old, like something I grew up with, okay? There was none of that. There were libraries, but even then, these aren't binded books where you could easily just look up page numbers. These are written on dusty scrolls that you'd have to track down and find. And you'd have to get all these details. And if you're just chunking in a bunch of details to make up a story look real by doing all of this research, it just seems more far-fetched than just this person was actually present. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so first we're going to start off with some historical details that we find in Lystra. So or maybe it's Lystra. I think it's actually Lystra. In Lystra, locals mistake Paul and Barnabas for gods. You guys remember the story? They healed a crippled man, and Barnabas was worshipped as Zeus, and Paul as Hermes. And Paul was like, please, guys, like, none of this, okay? Like, we can't have this. Luke actually nails some local details here. Historical evidence actually confirms that the native dialect in inland Asia Minor, where Greek wasn't as common. So if you remember in the story, they're yelling, they're in the Lycaonian language, right? They're Luke is noting, he's going out of his way and saying they're talking in Lycaonian, right? Wouldn't they be talking Greek, right? This is what we would expect, right? But no, actually, we have this information. And this is from Colin Hemmer, a classical historian who notes this. We have inscriptions and all kinds of other evidence that back up the fact that these people did actually speak Lycaonian. And we actually have archaeology that backs the fact that in Lystra, their gods, particular gods, they're kind of like gods of the city that they took as patrons, were actually Zeus and Hermes, right? This is even referenced in Ovid's Metamorphoses. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And so, yes, that's meant to be Zeus on the screen there. Somebody's asking in the chat. And so calling Barnabas Zeus also fits the belief that the top god actually stayed silent, and that Hermes was kind of like the main guy who would announce the god's coming. And so this is just adding another layer of authenticity to the account. So lots of little historical nuggets and details there that confirm this account or support this account. And then we have Acts 16:12. This is when Paul is over in Philippi. It says that Philippi, according to Luke, is a leading city of the district and a Roman colony, which gave the city special privileges. Philippi was proud of this status, and it's backed up by evidence from coins and Latin inscriptions. And so Luke gets a detail right, okay? But it's more than just that. He also mentions they're going to a riverside outside the gate. This is the River Gangites, which isn't a huge famous river, right? It's not like the Nile River, okay? It's a smaller river, right? But he just kind of casually mentions this. He just throws it in as if it's like some other detail. Like if you were in the United States and you're like, yeah, we were near the Mississippi, but he just kind of throws in, hey, it's a river. Like, I don't know. So now you might think, so what, big deal? Well, he also introduces a woman by the name of Lydia, a Christian sister, a convert, who is a seller of purple dye from Thyatira, a city in Asia Minor. Interestingly, Thyatira was a known hub for the purple dye trade. Keep in mind, again, remember, guys, that common knowledge isn't what it was today. And so that makes this detail even more impressive. And again, he's not just able to look this up on Google or Wikipedia and be like, you know what, I'm going to make up this lady. She'll be named Lydia, and she'll be from Thyatira. And you know what, she's a seller of purple because I looked that up, and that makes the story sound realistic. No, this just sounds like natural narrative, right? Somebody recording actual history as it happened. Now you might be like, well, why does this all matter? Why do these little details matter? I'm going to get more into that in a bit. So just continue to stick with. If you're not a big history geek like I am, some of this might be a little boring to you, but I promise there is payoff coming here. Okay. So Acts 17:6, we read that there was a riot in Thessalonica against Paul. You guys remember the Jews came up and stirred up some trouble. And it says that they dragged a believer, a Christian, by the name of Jason and some other Christians before the politarchs, which is translated city authorities in a lot of English translations, but the Greek word is politarch. Now, this was the technical term for the board of magistrates in Thessalonica. This isn't just some vague term that would be common knowledge for someone who hadn't been there themselves, right? It's not like the United States where you have like everybody, you have a mayor in every city, and there's like representatives that are in the Capitol, Congress people, and senators, and all that other kind of stuff, and governors. No, it's not like that. And so this is there's all kinds of different titles for local officials, and we'll see more of that as we go along. But this is exactly the sort of thing that a hoaxer might get wrong or prefer to leave vague, right? Testify. I see I got a comment here real quick. Testify, you should do this stream with God Logic. Hey, Logic is I'm happy to drop the logic bombs on God Logic sometime, anytime. And he's welcome to come on my channel at any time as well. This is a good question. Good question. Good question, Maris. Let's just Morris, I guess. Let's tackle this right now. Bart Ehrman argues that Paul in Acts doesn't preach atonement. What do you think? What do you think? That's a good question. I think Bart needs to read Acts chapter 20. I think Bart is not paying much attention here. So it's a good question. It's a good question. Let's take a look. Is just waiting for it to load here. We'll take a look at the verse. Internet's a little spotty. Hopefully that doesn't become a problem later. But here we go. Acts 20, verse 28. Do you guys see it? I don't know if it's up for you. If not, I'm reading it. Keep watch over yourselves and all the flock which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers. Be shepherds of the church of God, which he bought with his own blood. Okay, I mean, it's just enough said right there. Enough said right there. I think it should be pretty obvious that he's teaching some kind of atonement there. And so Bart is just once again wrong. Sheikh Erman is not the Muslim's friend here or the skeptic's friend. This is just sloppy. This is just bad. So good question. Good question. How do I hide this? Going boomer mode here. All right. That's okay. All right. So back to Thessalonica. Now we're going to Ephesus, I guess. Ephesus, we'll see more titles of local officials, right? In Acts 19:35, a riot breaks out. And 6079, Sheikh, I said earlier in the stream, I would love to have you up, brother. I'm going to do my presentation. I'm going to try and get it done as quickly as I can. No goy allowed. I don't know, man, with that. I will be happy to bring you up after the presentation. So if you're cool with that, you can come on up after. I'm going to try and zip through this as quickly as possible. If you are a non-Christian or you don't believe Paul is a true apostle, you're a Muslim, whatever, then you're welcome to hop up. All right. All right. Acts 19:35. Going back. A riot breaks out. Excuse me. I'm trying to read my own slides. I probably should just wing it a little bit more. Yes, these are slides. And if you guys want a copy of them, I'd be happy to share. Just send me an email. Just go to my About page, hit the contact button, and I can send you a copy. So anyways, we're on to Ephesus. Acts 19:35. You guys know the story. A riot breaks out, right? They start screaming, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians," right? And so a riot breaks out and the town clerk steps in to calm things down. Okay, the town clerk, the Greek word is actually used here is grammatus, which was a title for a magistrate in Ephesus as confirmed by inscriptions, right? Again, this goes back to Hemmer. This goes back to archaeology. This is just another example of Luke getting local details right, but there's a lot more. In Acts 19:27, 28, 34, 35, both the rioting crowd and the town clerk refer to great Artemis, or Diana, the goddess of Ephesus. The phrase, the great goddess of Artemis, is also backed by inscriptions. We have archaeological inscriptions with this title, Great Goddess Artemis, showing again how spot on Luke is about local worship. Not only that, in verse 35, the town clerk calms them by saying that the city of Ephesus was known to be a guardian of the temple, or a neokoros. This is actually an honorary title for Ephesus that again is attested in inscriptions. Okay, in verse 38, there's even more. The town clerk says that the courts are in session, urging them not to riot, but calm down, bring the claim in an orderly way. This refers to a Roman practice in Asia Minor of holding courts regularly, and these were only in 9 or 10 more of the principal cities, Ephesus being one of them. And so whoever wrote this account was very familiar with Ephesus and the practices, the religious practices, what people were called, all of that kind of stuff. And I think this is best explained by the fact that he actually traveled with Paul. And Paul even alludes to this in an undesigned coincidence, which we're going to get into a few of those in a moment. Just mentioning this off the top of my head. But he said when he was there, when he's writing 2 Corinthians, he was talking about he despaired of even life, right? And there was this great persecution and all this different stuff. And a lot of people think that he wrote that particular passage, hearkening back shortly after this incident in Ephesus. All right. So Patara, more local information. We're almost done with the local information. So Acts 21:1, in the middle of one of the so-called we passages, the author is giving a blow-by-blow account of the last trip to Jerusalem. He says that they found a ship at Patara in Asia Minor that was sailing across Phoenicia just north of Judea. Well, as it turns out, we know from history that Patara was a port used in the grain trade and would have been a likely place to find a ship that was headed that way. And so if you have any questions, make sure you keep them on topic. Seeing some stuff, I'm not answering that. Keep it on topic. Talk to your pastor. If you don't have a pastor, get one. And so anyway, Patara was a port used in the grain trade and would have likely been a place to find a ship. I already mentioned that. And then what's even cooler is that the name is neuter plural, Patara, which also could mean baskets, or possibly means baskets, and Acts nails the exact form of the town's name, which is confirmed by inscriptions. This definitely was not common knowledge back then. All right, and just you guys could see there's a little map here. There's Patara, there's Tyre, and then from Tyre on down to Jerusalem. All right, this is the crazy one. This is my favorite. And so this is Cauda, a tiny little island outside of Crete. Acts 24:17-16 describes Paul's journey to Rome when he became a Roman prisoner. Describes how they didn't take Paul's advice. If you guys remember, he's like, guys, I perceive this ain't going to go well. They didn't take his advice. And so anyways, they were trying to find a city in Crete where they could winter at. And yeah, things were not going good. And so they get caught by a northeaster, a great windstorm out of the northeast, and they find a brief refuge next to an island called Cauda. And so we'll see why this is a big deal. These ancient authors, such as Pliny the Elder in his Natural History, and Ptolemy, they totally botch the location of Cauda. And they put it in a location that wouldn't fit at all with what Acts is describing, because you couldn't be blown there by a strong northeastern wind. But Acts casually gets it right. The description in Acts fits its real location. Its real location is right here. You guys will see it. And so Luke is the only ancient author who actually pinpoints this tiny little island outside of Crete, and all the nautical data, the wind data, and everything else we have. This is exactly where they would have been blown. And so it all fits. And so if you guys are in the chat, again, if you're off topic, you're discussing a bunch of other stuff, you're just distracting from the actual stream and the information that I'm trying to give you. So please stop. If you want to have some kind of conversation about stuff outside of this particular stream, then direct your conversation to Discord or wherever you guys want to talk, but it ain't going to be here. Okay. So I will start banning. This is not the Christian Advice Hour at the moment. I'm trying to teach you guys something so you know how to defend the reliability of the Book of Acts. And so anyways, as you're watching, after I chide you and give you guys your little slap upside the head, I'm just kind of kidding around, but please do like if this is helping you. And if you're following, let me know. If you have any questions, again, put them in the chat. Which Discord? I'm just kidding around, Mio. Whichever Discord you want to use to ask your friends, stuff like that. But I'm not, again, some of this advice is stuff that is just, people are asking for pastoral advice here. This ain't the place for it. And so now the skeptical rejoinder to some of the information that I'm sharing with you guys is the Spider-Man fallacy, which is basically committed supposedly anytime the discovery of a mundane element from myth, legend, or story is taken to mean that all the stories are actually real, including the supernatural, right? And so, yeah, that's what they're going to say. It's like, oh, well, New York City is real. You know, does that mean that all the things that happened in Spider-Man are real? And of course, we don't believe that. That's not at all what we're saying. What we are saying is, just trying to multitask here, is that Luke, by getting a bunch of correct details right, shows that he's honest, reliable, and close up to the facts. If somebody is constantly telling you truth, if somebody constantly is showing you that they're interested in the facts, if somebody constantly shows themselves to be up close to the events that they actually report, then it's kind of like you're just being, I don't know, selective when they tell you something that doesn't agree all of a sudden with your worldview. And we'll see that as we go along here. And so Bart Ehrman actually makes the same mistake. In a blog post on October 4th, 2020, he said that the external confirmation found in Hemmer's books are totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. But Bart, Sheikh Ehrman, my guy, what are we doing here? He says that it's not relevant, but then he says it is relevant when Luke supposedly makes errors, like, for instance, the census supposedly. But if getting historical details is wrong, or getting historical evidence wrong is evidence against the historical trustworthiness of Acts, then getting them right is evidence for it. You can't have it both ways, right? Do you guys see that? Does that make sense? If you're getting a bunch of things right, tiny details right, why wouldn't that count? But suddenly, like when he supposedly contradicts Paul, or he supposedly makes a historical error, and I would argue that he really doesn't. But even if he made like a tiny error or something like that, how would that like destroy all of this positive information? It just doesn't. And so this is just, I don't know, this is just crazy. Getting a bunch of this stuff right is evidence, right? Evidence works in two directions. So what would it be like for Acts to be fiction? Basically, the author somehow gathered all these obscure details with no access to Google or Wikipedia. He made up travels for Paul, pretended to be his companion, scattered these obscure details casually everywhere, and inventing a genre that didn't even exist at the time. So there was no literary genre of highly historical fiction, highly historically accurate fiction at that time. Okay, like Sherlock Holmes and all that kind of stuff came way later. Okay, and so this wasn't a genre that existed back then. Well, you could say, well, yeah, what about the apocryphal gospels or the apocryphal Acts, like the Acts of Paul and Thecla or the Acts of Thomas? Sure, I would invite you to read those. You will not find any near the level of historical confirmation in small, tiny details that you will find in this, and you'll actually find that they get details wrong. Okay, and so be my guest, knock yourself out. Go ahead and check those out. Let's see. All right. I need some mods. I'm just new to the stream thing, guys. So thank you for pointing out the trolls here. I appreciate that. All right. And so then we would have to say that the author created a hoax by pretending that this was a real history. Okay. And he's sending this off to Theophilus, right? And he's saying this is a real history. In his introductions, he's talking about this like, hey, I interviewed witnesses. This is a historical account, right? And so then he sends this off to Theophilus. He places himself in places where he probably hadn't even traveled, probably didn't even know, and he sends it to somebody. What I'm trying to say? I apologize again. The moderating and the presenting is not going well. I'm learning, guys, so appreciate the patience there. I'm gonna get somebody as a mod here for the next one. Point that I'm trying to say is he's not sending this book off to Theophilus, who probably didn't travel to these places himself. Okay, and he probably didn't know these details himself, and he couldn't be impressed by the accuracy. And so, what is the point? Okay, and so what would it be like for Acts to be fiction? Ehrman thinks that Acts was written in the 80s, well after Paul's epistles. Some skeptical scholars put it in the 2nd century, which is even more ridiculous. But then he's going to say that it contradicts Paul's epistles. These alleged contradictions are contrived and easily harmonized, but also show that Luke was not using Paul's letters. Dark Wolf, I'm pretty sure you already are a mod. You should be. And so, yeah, feel free to use your authority. And so let's see. But what kind of super clever hoaxer does that? If he could research obscure details of geography and language, couldn't he even bother to avoid apparent contradictions with Paul's letters, which would already have been in circulation by the time Ehrman thinks Acts was written? This is not even a remotely consistent picture here at all. All right, Dark Wolf, I trust you, bro. Go for it. Anybody who is trolling, just use your authority. All right, so we're going to talk about one more piece of evidence, and then we're going to invite callers up. Undesigned coincidences. We talked about these a little bit in the last stream. There are places in the text of Acts where some passage in one of the Pauline epistles interlock in a way that would be unlikely to arise in mere fiction or from simple copying. This interlocking suggests that both texts are truthful accounts, right? And so you're going to see in passing that Luke or Paul mentioned some kind of casual detail that we can confirm in the other account, but it's not done in such a way where one of them is copying from the other. It's not on purpose. It's best explained by this being historical reportage versus somebody just making stuff up. And so you're going to see some of these. It's going to be clear to you as I illustrate with these examples. And so Galatians 1:18, then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to visit Cephas and remained with him for 15 days. 15 days. 15 days. That's it, Paul? The leader of the church, you only talked to him for 15 days. Why such a short visit? Well, here's why it was such a short visit. In Acts 9:29, Paul spoke and disputed with the Hellenists, but they were seeking to kill him. And when the brothers learned this, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus. Well, that would make a lot of sense. That would be why it was such a short visit. They were trying to kill the guy. And so, yeah, there we go. Acts 15:37-41, we read about a sharp disagreement between Paul and Barnabas about bringing Mark with them on the missionary journey. Now, why was Barnabas so passionate about bringing Mark with him? What's the deal there, right? There is no explanation of this if we're just reading Acts. But if we turn over to Colossians 4:10, Paul doesn't make any mention whatsoever in any of his letters about his rift with Barnabas. But he does say, my fellow prisoner Aristarchus sends you greetings, as does Mark, the cousin of Barnabas. So apparently the rift was healed, but Colossians makes no mention of this particular rift. But now you could understand why Barnabas was so passionate about bringing Mark along. Mark was his kin. He was his cousin, right? And so these two are bits of information fit together like two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. All right. In 1 Thessalonians 2:2, Paul says that he was treated outrageously at Philippi, as you know. So how would he know that? Why is he bringing that up? Like, what exactly happened in Philippi? If we're just reading the letters to the Thessalonians, we have no clue whatsoever is happening, what happened in Philippi, right? But in Acts 16:22-24, we find out what happened in Philippi, right? Paul and Silas were illegally beaten, and they were jailed by the magistrates in Philippi. And what was the very next city that Paul visited? If you go to Acts 17:1, it was Thessalonica. Okay. So it all fits together once again like two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but none of these are based on copying. It's not as if like somebody was reading Paul's letters and he's like, you know what? I'm going to make up a story. Shamefully treated. Yeah, I'll just make up a story about him being beaten, demanding an apology from the city authorities, and then going to Thessalonica and telling them, like, I mean, is it possible? Sure. But if you actually read 1 Thessalonians, Bart Ehrman will famously say, like, no, there's actually contradictions in 1 Thessalonians and Acts letters, right? Which there's not really. It's pretty easily harmonizable. And we could, if somebody wants to talk about that, they can let me know. And so, but yeah, they're not copying from one another. Okay. All right. Next up, 1 Thessalonians 2:17 describes him being torn away from the Thessalonians, being forced to leave them before he wanted to. And 1 Thessalonians 3:4 suggests this was due to persecution. What exactly happened? Paul doesn't say, but we already talked about it in Acts 17:5-8:10. Jealous Jews actually stirred up trouble, accusing Paul and Silas of promoting Jesus as king, causing chaos. They get dragged before the politarchs, but after a quick shakedown, Jason, a Christian, is released. And with tensions rising, Paul and Silas sneak out to Berea under the cover of night. And so again, these things fit together like two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. This is way more likely on historical reportage than just fictionalization. Okay, a few more, and then we're going to wrap up here. 2 Thessalonians 3:1. Are we beginning to commend ourselves again, or do we need, as some of you do, letters of recommendation to you or from you? So what is this odd offhand reference about letters of recommendation about? Why does he say like some of these people have to have letters of recommendations. Well, Acts 18:27 tells us. And when Apollos wished to cross to Achaia, the brothers encouraged him and wrote to the disciples to welcome him. They gave Apollos a letter of recommendation. Now, the Emperor of Augustus made Corinth the capital of Achaia. And all of this fits within the timeline, right? Acts 18, Paul's in Corinth. And then later on in Acts 18:24, you see that Apollos then later comes to Corinth. And so it all again fits, but there's no way that this is just a result of copying, that like somebody's reading Paul's letters and going, you know what, let's have Apollos be the guy with the letter of recommendation. If you think that all of this is just copying, then you need to get yourself fitted for a tinfoil hat. All right. And so Acts 18:3-5, Paul, he's working every day. He's making tents, right? He's working with Priscilla and Aquila. And then on the Sabbath, he's in the synagogue trying to preach to the Jews and Greeks. And then in the latter half of the passages in Acts 18:3-5, it says, Silas and Timothy came down from Macedonia. Paul began devoting himself completely to the word, solemnly testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Christ. So, sorry if I'm covering up, but it says, was Paul slacking? Why did Paul go from working 6 days a week, making tents with his friends, Priscilla and Aquila, to all of a sudden preaching full time? What is going on? All we see here is that Silas and Timothy came down through Macedonia. Well, if we turn to 2 Corinthians 11:8-9, it says, I robbed other churches by accepting support from them in order to serve you. He's speaking hyperbolically. And when I was with you and was in need, I did not burden anyone, for the brothers who came from Macedonia supplied my need, so I refrained and will refrain from burdening you in any way. So you guys see that? If you see that, put a 1 in the comment. 1 in the comments if you're following. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, do the things and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully this is helping you, but there's no way that this is some sort of copying. This bears the marks again of whoever was traveling with Paul and wrote the book of Acts knew his stuff, right? All right, I see a lot of 1s in the chats. Daniel Wanges, I don't know. Baby Monster, Peter Spinney, Tommy Unseen, 6079, Smith W, Day. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate that. I think we got 2 more. So here, this one to me is like one of the best examples of an undesigned coincidence between Acts and Paul's letters. When Timothy comes, in 1 Corinthians 4:17, it says, this is why I sent you Timothy. So Timothy has been sent, but then we read later in 1 Corinthians 16:10, when Timothy comes. Okay, so Timothy's already been sent, but later on we see, okay, when he comes. So Paul expects this letter to arrive before Timothy actually does. He dispatched Timothy, but he's not expecting him to be there yet. And that's kind of strange, right? Because it's just a little, if he's going by boat, it's just Paul is writing to the Corinthians. I think trying to remember, I believe it's from Ephesus. We'll see in a second. I have a map. My memory is just kind of failing me at the moment. He could have just went by boat and it would have been like a quick journey. And so we infer from reading this that Timothy must have taken some indirect route to Corinth. He must have hooked it on foot. And so, yeah, here's Ephesus, here's Achaia, there's the Aegean, And so he must have walked around. Well, actually, if you read, and if you want to look it up, prove it out, read Acts 19:21-22, and you could also read 20 verses 1-4. We actually see that Timothy did take such a route. He did go up and around through Macedonia. And so that's why he wasn't expecting to be there yet. So you guys see that? It's kind of crazy, right? And so again, this fits way better on the idea that this account that we have in the book of Acts is written by an eyewitness, somebody who's actually traveling with Paul. Okay, I think we've got one more here. I commend you to Sister Phoebe, a deacon of the church in, I believe it's called Cenchrea, and ask you to receive her in the Lord in a way that was worthy of her people and give her help, give her whatever help she needs, because she's been a huge blessing to me, is basically what Paul is saying, right? Well, what's interesting is, and here you go, people who say that Paul didn't keep the law. Paul just Dark Wolf, if feel free to do what you got to do, man. And so just some of the comments are just wild. Like Paul brings out the trolls. That's what this does. Is you start talking about Paul being a true apostle, and the demons start manifesting. That's just the way that it goes. All right. Remember, right? Like they tried to cast him out in the name of Paul, and then the demons were like, "I know Paul, but who are you?" Right? The demons know who Paul is, and they don't like him. All right. So, anyways, Paul stayed in Corinth for some time. Then he left the brothers and sisters and sailed for Syria, accompanied by Priscilla and Aquila. Before he sailed, he had his hair cut. There's a Nazirite vow that he's taking at Cenchrea. He takes a vow, okay, at Cenchrea. Well, look at this. Corinth. Here's Cenchrea. They're right by each other, right? And so he salutes this saint. He's writing from Corinth, and he's saying, "I'm commending to you, Romans, this sister Phoebe." And he's writing this letter to the Romans from Corinth. He's praising her. And then he talks about the fact in Acts 18:18 that he actually did stay in Cenchrea for a while. It even had a Nazirite he went under a Nazirite vow. So Paul actually was a Torah observant Jew, and we actually see this in his letters. He's just telling the Gentiles, like, you guys don't have to do this in order to be saved. All right. So let's see. So that's it, basically it in a nutshell, guys. There's so many more details that I could go into. This is just a small sampling. And so here's the argument. Here's the punchline. Here's what I want you to get. I'm sorry for some of this being a little bit disjointed because of some of the moderation issues. I'm working those out. New to streaming, guys, so bear with me through some of the growing pains. But the argument is this. All right, Muslims, get ready to come up. If Acts is historical, Paul wasn't some rogue. He was actually tight with the apostles, contrary to your narrative. Acts 9:27, Barnabas vouched for Paul to the apostles, saying that he preached Jesus without fear. Acts 15:25, the apostles sent Paul on missions as their representative, risking his life for Jesus. And so there you have that. Then Acts 21:8, we already talked about it. Luke was with Paul, and he met with James and all the elders in Jerusalem, and he gave him a chance to interview the witnesses. Second step of the argument, the apostles and Paul preached Jesus' death and resurrection, which is the opposite of what Islam claims. Acts 3:15, you guys killed, he's talking to the Jews here, you killed the author of life, but God raised him from the dead, and we are witnesses to this fact. Okay, well, the Quran says that the disciples are Muslims. Well, where is the Muslim Jesus, right? Where is the Muslim gospel in any of this? It's not here. It's not here at all. And we see what Peter is preaching in Acts 3:15. He calls Jesus the author of life. That's very highly exalted language there. He says that God raised him from the dead. And so you have crucifixion. Looks like you have something pretty darn close to the deity of Christ there, if not the deity of Christ, and resurrection. And so, no, the Acts cannot be a reliable account, and the Quran be correct. Now, here's the Muslim escape hatch. You could claim that the disciples in Acts were fooled, or that they instantly corrupted the message on the day of Pentecost, or they weren't the real disciples. But I think here, if Acts is reliable, they were the real disciples. And not only that, but your own book blocks this. Surah 61:14. I'm just going to kind of shorten it, but you're welcome to read the whole passage. The disciples said, we are the supporters of Allah. And then Allah says that we supported those who believed, and they became the victors. The apostles in Acts were victorious in spreading the faith according to Acts, because we see here from what does Acts begin with? Jesus saying, you're going to be my witnesses. You're going to spread the faith to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the earth. And so in the first few chapters of Acts, they spread the gospel in Jerusalem and then in Judea. And then we see Philip go down to Samaria and Peter go down to Samaria. people getting filled with the Holy Spirit. And then we see Paul going to the uttermost parts of the earth. And we even see Peter preaching to the Gentiles in Acts chapter 10. All right. And so the apostles were being the helpers of Allah. They were spreading the message. They were victorious in spreading the message. Paul writes to the Colossians that the message is spread throughout the whole world, that we hardly even have to say anything. All right. This is Colossians 1:6. Surah 355 confirms, I will raise you to myself and place those who follow you above those who disbelieve until the day of resurrection. So Allah is backs the victors, and we see that in the Quran. These victors were either Jesus's apostles seen in Acts, the epistles, and the early church, or somebody else, but we have zero historical trace of any non-apostle victors, and we only have a reliable account of apostolic victors that are described in the book of Acts. And so the victors had to be Jesus's apostles. Even Ibn Ishaq, who was the first person to write a biography of the false prophet Muhammad, those whom Jesus, son of Mary, sent, both disciples and those who came after them, Peter, the disciple, and Paul with him. Paul belonged to the followers and wasn't a disciple, right? And he says that they preached the gospel in Rome. And then Al-Qurtubi, a very renowned Islamic commentator, off of this particular passage, he concurs with Ibn Ishaq. And he says Peter and Paul went to Rome. And where does Acts end? With Paul in Rome, right? What does all church history tell us? That Paul and Peter were martyred in Rome. All right. So I'm done. Acts is legit. The whole concept of Paul corrupted Christianity argument falls apart. The apostles themselves backed Paul and preached Jesus' death and resurrection. Even Muhammad's earliest biographer, Ibn Ishaq, and one of Islam's top commentators, acknowledges Paul's role in spreading the faith. So there you guys have it. All right, that is it. I hope that was helpful for you guys. And yeah, and this whole Islamic narrative is just a bunch of bunk. Your Islamic Jesus is talking out of cradles in who knows where, under fig trees or date trees or whatever it is, in who knows where. There's no historical context that we're given about it whatsoever. And we actually know that these are borrowed from apocryphal accounts way after the book of Acts was even written. And so who are you guys going to trust? Bro in a cave, supposedly having a revelation, or are you going to trust somebody who's shown themselves to be a historically reliable reporter, which is Luke? So if you guys want to come up, Muslims, or if you are in non-Christians only, or if you're somebody who says Paul is not an actual apostle, you could even be a skeptic. Okay. You could be an atheist and disagree with me. That's totally fine. I don't really care. But anybody who says that Paul isn't an apostle, come on up. I would love to talk to you. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to talk to Christians. This isn't Christian kind of Q&A. Now, if you guys have questions about this particular presentation, definitely drop it in the chat. I would love to be happy to answer any questions there. So give you guys a few minutes. Anybody watch the debate with David Wood and Comedy Central yesterday? I mean, Central Dawa. I did not watch it yet. I know Sig is going to be doing a review on that. And so I'll have to maybe watch that. So, but I definitely am looking forward to watching it. Just didn't come out. And then my boy, 6079 Shake. Can you just come up on screen for just a second? You don't even have to show your face. Give me a thumbs up or whatever. That's good enough. All right, brother.
How you doing?
Good. You a Muslim?
Hey, I just want to throw, I'm not necessarily trying to promote it, but I'm trying to build communities here. I love what you do. I'm kind of new to your channel. There's a guy going on tomorrow. He's called Get Chalked Up. He's a smaller channel than you. We share some same beliefs. Christ is king. I love what you do. I just want to come up here and just shower you with praise. I love what you do. It's all glory to the Most High, and you're awesome. We need more people like this.
All right. Well, if it's good, it's God. And I thank you for coming up again. Muslims
Can
only,
I
but
real quick? Can I share something?
Well, it's for non-believers only. I appreciate it.
Well, I just think people should hear this. So it's a pandemic, and you have to cover your face like Islam, and Pan is the god of child love, and Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl. We need to go green because green is the color of Islam. I just think people need to hear that.
All right, man. All right. Well, take care. Thanks
The
for
word
coming.
Baphomet, the Baphomet is the shrine of Satan statue, and the word Baphomet is where the word Muhammad comes from. The shrine of Satan. All it is Muhammad. God bless, dude. I love you.
All right. Take care. I don't know if I'd make those kind of connections there, but hey, all right. And so non-Muslims only, please respect the live guys. And so, or non-Christians who want to debate the whole Paul thing. Come on up. Come on up. Let's see. So yeah, I haven't caught that debate yet. I'm looking forward to it. I think the topic was, is Muhammad in the Bible, which seems to me like that would be one of the most insurmountable cases as a Muslim to try and argue. Because I mean, what are their arguments? That he's in the Song of Solomon? That's a terrible argument. Just because something sounds similar, sounds like Muhammad, Mahmadi, that somehow that's referring to, we're going to take a book in the Bible that's about basically, let's just be real, sex and relationships, and we're going to put Muhammad in there. That's pretty bizarre. Or what are they going to say, that he's the prophet in Deuteronomy 18? It constantly is referring to the fact that it's one of your brothers. And if you look at the context in Deuteronomy, anytime he uses brothers, he's referring to fellow Israelites. So that just isn't going to work. That might be the best argument that they have, and that's really bad. The whole Muhammad is the comforter. I mean, you talk about, for a group who doesn't like shirk, here they are equating the Holy Spirit with Muhammad, and so that's messed up. How they try and squeeze that into that actually being Muhammad, is if Jesus really did predict somebody else was coming. Jesus was going to do that, that's the most unclear way possible. And so you'd really have to do a ton of mental gymnastics with that. And so I'm looking forward to that, because I just can't even imagine what those arguments are. Didat Ali, that sounds like a Muslim's name. Didat, can you come, can you show yourself on camera briefly and just give me a thumbs up if you are in fact a Muslim? Didat, can you hear me, bro? Isaiah 42 is brought up a lot. That's even worse, because then if you go, I thought Michael Brown just kind of put the nail in that coffin forever. Didat, if you're a Muslim, just if you can, show yourself on camera real quick. Give me a thumbs up, or you could send me a private chat real quick and help me confirm with me. I guess that would be okay if you don't have a camera. All right, I see you, bro, but I don't hear you, and you're not communicating with me. So you got 30 seconds, and you're going to get kicked. Did Central check his phone a lot, go off camera during the debate, guys? So real quick question, got a chat. Testify, what do you think about the Prophet Muhammad being mentioned in Isaiah 42? Can you refute that? I actually have a video script, so I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag on that right now. But I will do a video on that. I think it's probably one of the worst arguments that they have. I don't think anything's going to, I think if you're making like a tier list, that would be kind of on the bottom, but I don't think anything's going to be worse than Song of Solomon or John 14 through 16. But yeah, no, if Michael Brown, if you already just look up some debate clips, it's already been pretty much demolished, but I do have a video script on that. So, so yeah, I would be able to, I will be making a video on that. So, let's see. He did turn off his camera? Bro, how did they even allow that? Did God Logic talk to him and warn him? Like, hey, man, he's going to be talking to his little group chat, trying to get help while he's debating. All right, D Dot, I'm going to kick you, bro, because you're not confirming if you're Muslim. I need you to come on camera and just give me a thumbs up, or just go in the chat and just say, yes, sir, I'm a Muslim, whatever, and I'll let you up. Going once, going twice. Wasn't too hard of a request, but I guess not. Egyptian Arab, same thing. Come on camera for just a second. If you're a Muslim, give me a thumbs up. If you don't have a camera, go to the chat and let me know, so I'm not just letting up anybody. I'm not letting up Christians, so I don't want that. Private chat. I might have missed something. D Dot. See, he's not even. Okay, D Dot, if I missed you and I missed the chat, come back up. I apologize, and I will let you up. I didn't see. I checked the wrong chat, so that's actually my bad. I would be more than happy to let you up. Egyptian Arab, go to the private chat and just let me know that you're a Muslim, or turn your camera on and give me a thumbs up. It's not too hard. Not too hard. Are you paying attention still? Do you put your phone down, walk away? What are we doing here? All right. Do we need to do some sort of hold music or something? Do I need to bring be a Chad back? I don't know. Let's see. Anybody's in the private chat. D Dot, I apologize again if you want to come up. There you are. All right, brother.
Hello.
What you got?
Hello,
Is
bro.
Paul-
Bro,
is
can
there
you hear
Paul-
me?
Yeah, man, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Actually, I have a doubt. When I respond into Deen response,
Okay, so do you have a question about this particular chat or this particular
bro,
topic that we went to?
yeah, I will continue, but I want to ask that when I respond into Deen response, we can go to the topic.
So I discussed this in the last live, and so basically, I initially, when Dean started making response content to me, I sent him an email, or actually, no, I left him a comment, and I said I'd be glad to talk to you. He kind of gave me this thing of like, well, I'm kind of younger. I don't have tons of experience. I'm only 21, and I have a friend who actually does a lot with gospel reliability and authorship and all that other stuff. And his name was Wassam. I don't know his last name. I have seen him on other streams. And I said, sure, man, we could do that. Then I had something come up where I was sick for several days. I didn't tell Dean that I was sick, but I was sick. I wasn't sleeping very well. And I didn't want to do it at that particular date that we scheduled. So I asked him to postpone. He said, sure, that's totally fine. He didn't give me any of this nonsense that he's saying about I'm running and all this other stuff. And so he said he would give Wassam my email, and inshallah, he would get back to me. I've still yet to hear from Wassam. I don't blame Wassam. Maybe Wassam has a life and he's just busy. I'm not accusing Wassam of running. He's probably a good dude. I'm not going to assume anything bad about him. And so, but he has not got back with me. Another small channel by the name of Isa Insight also made a response to me. And I asked Isa if he'd be willing to have a conversation. And Isa was kind of like, we couldn't really settle on a topic. And so, but he said that he knows Wassam in passing. I don't remember how it came up. I said, great, give Wassam my email. So he's like, okay. Or just, I think I just said, let him know. I'd be happy to talk to him because they're like in the same group chat or something. So again, no hear back from Wassam. Then suddenly Dean starts accusing me of running from him and pounding his chest and saying he wants to debate me and making all this derogatory kind of statements about me. And he's just acting kind of strange. I'll just put it nicely. And I'm like, now suddenly he does want to debate me. And I said, okay, well, I'm doing these lives. Come on up anytime. I'll put you up.
Yeah, but I
And
heard, but he posted a community post that he want to debate you in a public venture.
so this is public. You're talking to me public right now, Dida.
No,
And
no, no,
so
no, not. I mean, in a physical public way, in physically.
he's in another continent. And I don't think that's what he said. He just wants to go on somebody's channel and talk. So I said, come on mine. But I don't really want to do this whole formatted thing. I just want to have a conversation. And he wants to do this whole public thing, like this whole debate style, rebuttals, this, that, and the other, and all this other stuff on his channel. And I'm just like, dude, I have a bunch of kids. I have a job, and this is what I do part-time, in part as a career. And so come on my channel and you can talk to me about whatever you want. You've been on Inspiring Philosophy's platform and you talked to him. You went on God Logic and you just had a direct conversation with God Logic. So there's no reason why you couldn't just come up and we can discuss the topic that I'm
Okay.
discussing.
Okay, bro.
And then like he's just like, no, it has to be this debate. And I'm like, I don't want to take days out of my week preparing for a debate on his channel who doesn't have a lot of subs because he's gonna thump his chest and put pictures of me as a clown. I just don't have time for that. This is the last time I'm going to address this publicly because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my time. I'm willingly inviting anybody up. And then if he wants to say I'm running, then why would I call Hamza on his live and talk to Hamza, who has way more experience than he does? Why would I go on atheist channels like Apologia or Myth Vision multiple times to talk to those guys, or Vice Rhino, channels with way bigger platforms than what Dean has, and talk to atheists or Hamza, who is probably you guys' guy, right? But I'm afraid of Dean. Then make it make sense. And so, and again, the invitation is open for him to come up, but he can say whatever he wants to say about me, and that's it. And I've spent, I don't know, 7 minutes talking about this. This is a waste of my time. So if you have a question about this particular live and you're a Muslim, then I'd be willing to talk about Paul. And
No. Actually, I will come to Paul, but I have a question about the age of Ahaziah, 22 or 42. Yeah, just curious about it.
I think it's scribal error. I have to have a video that I talk about this. I could put it in the group chat. I think it's just
yeah. I saw it.
If he was 22, he would have been a child, and they're calling him evil and all this other stuff later. It doesn't make any sense. And so I've addressed this in other content, and that's off topic. It's off topic. If this is supposed to, if a number is supposed to debunk in the Old Testament all the information that I just gave about Acts being a historically reliable account, that's ridiculous, because my argument doesn't hinge on is the entire Bible cover to cover inerrant. And Christians don't have the view of inspiration that you do if you're a Muslim, that everything has to be letter for letter, dot for dot, pure, perfect, whatever. There can't be a scribal corruption that maybe got in. Okay. And so what does that have to do? What does that have to do with Paul being
no, just curious about it. So I heard a Reddit post from a Muslim, I think. So there is a satanic prophet called Aleister Crowley. He's a satanic prophet, like a Baphomet. He's a demonic kind of guy. So in one of his works, he told that love is the fulfillment of law. Okay. And I don't know in which chapter or verse. I'm not a scholar, but as much as I know,
it's Romans 13:10 would be.
He told you mean Paul said the love is the fulfillment of the law.
Oh, okay. I believe it's also in Galatians 5:14.
Yeah, as much. So how do you, and also in Matthew chapter number 5 verse number 17 to 9. Respond to that.
Well, Jesus said the same thing, so Paul agrees with Jesus, because in Paul abolished the law. In Matthew 27, 22, 37 through 40, somebody comes up and says, "What's the greatest commandment?" And he says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you do this, you fulfill the law." So, if anything, this is evidence that Paul was familiar with the historical Jesus, And he's referring to the historical Jesus' teachings and the teachings of the apostles, that love is the fulfillment of the law. Because if you walk in love, if I love you, D-Dot, I'm not going to steal from you. I'm not going to murder you. I'm not going to try and take your wife from you. I'm not going to covet what you have. I'm not going to do any of those things. So if I love you, I fulfill the law. And it is that he's referring, when Jesus is quoting that, he's literally quoting Leviticus 19:18. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it is also written that the law shall not be abolished until the end of the time.
Yeah. Okay. So Jesus said that. So did Paul say that he abolished that the law is abolished?
Yeah, but he told that I consider whoever follows the law, I consider them as a garbage.
Okay, no. He says that his own righteousness is garbage. So you're talking about Philippians chapter 3. So let me pull it up. Or if you could pull it up, I'm typing it wrong here. Let's see, Philippians 3. Let's see. All right, let me bring it up here. All right. I don't know why Bible Gateway gives me the NIV, but we'll just roll with it for now. And so he says, not having a righteousness that comes from the law, but through faith in Christ, the righteousness that comes by God on the basis of faith. And then he says, I have lost all things. I consider them garbage that I may gain Christ and follow him. And so he's saying that you can't obtain righteousness through the law, but that doesn't mean that he's not trying to still obey the law. He's still saying, walk in love and you will fulfill the law. And as I mentioned in the presentation, Paul took a Nazirite vow, not once in Acts chapter 18, but also in Acts 21. And James, Jesus' own brother, in Acts chapter 1, I mean, I can go there if you need me to, says that, Paul, you follow the law, you follow the law, right? The only reason that they got upset with Paul and started a riot when he was in Jerusalem is they thought he was bringing Gentiles into the temple. That was the only thing. But Paul isn't saying, in fact, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, he says, he's telling them to stay Jewish. He's saying, if you've been circumcised, don't try and remove your circumcision. He's saying, stay, remain where you are, stay with your calling. Everything he says is just in line with the Council of Jerusalem in Acts chapter 15, where he basically tells them, like, don't eat these certain things, but you guys don't have to get circumcised. You don't have to do any of this ritual stuff in order to be right with God. You are accepted through your faith in Jesus Christ. And they sent Paul at the Council of Jerusalem and said, hey, why would they send somebody that they don't trust, that was preaching a different corrupted message, to deliver their message to these churches? And that at the council, Paul was in agreement with what they were saying. That doesn't make any sense. You following? D-Dot, you think you're muted, bro. Does that make sense? D-Dot, did I lose you, bro? Oh, you know what? I took you down. I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That's my own silliness there.
Okay. So, not only in this topic of ball, I saw many people debunk you, like small channels,
What's that?
Yeah, like many small channels try to, debunk you, try to expose you.
Well, if you go to my blog at jesusalive.com, I do some responses to those. If I responded to everybody who responded to something that I said, I wouldn't make content. Hold on, D-Dot, 1 second. So here's something that I think a lot of people misunderstand is positive evidence for something is evidence against a different view, right? And so all the positive evidence that I laid out, I could make a case that Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead just by arguing from the reliability of the book of Acts and Paul's letters, right?
Bro,
And
actually,
so,
I saw.
but that's positive evidence, right? So what they have to do is like they're going to have to come up with a situation, a solution that's more plausible. Just because
Yeah.
somebody is like, well, testify says this, that, or the other, blah blah blah. Like, okay, so what? People make videos about flat Earth videos all the time, but we have positive evidence that the Earth is round, and so I don't think scientists should stop what they're. I'm not comparing myself necessarily to a scientist, but they don't have to stop what they're doing every single time to debunk every single time a small YouTube channel comes up and says, no, really, the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat. Like, let the dogs bark. This train's gonna just keep on rolling. You know what I'm saying? And so, if you think they're debunking me, like, you need to like ask questions like, are there arguments sound? And so, like Dean, for instance, to his arguments that like,
Bro.
like Muhammad
Testify.
really is the paraclete in
Testify.
John chapter 14. That's an absurd claim that has been refuted 6 ways from Sunday, including on
Yeah.
my blog. So see what I'm saying? And so those claims are kind of so stupid they kind of speak for themselves. But even
Bro,
then, I still
testify.
respond to them.
I want to say something. Actually, I found a channel. I think his name was. He has a my name. I think Didat Apologetics. Yeah, he is my similar name. Yeah, it's not me. Somebody's channel. He had kind of 300 videos actually. So on you, actually 300 videos. He getting like
Okay,
80 views.
I have 400 videos, so I really doubt that that's the case.
No.
Okay, so
When
I'm
you
gonna bring
are
it back
trying
to
to.
I'm gonna bring it back to Paul because this is what the topic is, and
No. I want to
I want to keep
see.
people engaged.
Bro. I want your
Okay,
message to people who are.
I'm gonna this is my channel, so you're a guest right now. If you want to discuss the presentation
I'm
that I
sorry.
brought up,
If I was rude, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
then
I'm sorry
no,
if I was.
you're not being rude. It's just you're changing the topic, and the topic is Testify going to respond to every single person who made a video about him? That's not the topic. The topic is Paul an apostle? Is the book of Acts reliable? Can we trust it? That's the topic. So if you want to talk the topic, we'll talk the topic. If you don't want to talk the topic,
I have it out.
then I have somebody else to move on.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, I have it out. You know the Book of Acts. Book of Acts. Who wrote it? James or Paul? Just a question.
The book of Acts? Luke wrote the book of Acts. We said that at the beginning of the stream.
Okay.
Why would you invent Luke if he's just a traveling companion of Paul's that's only mentioned in Philippians 24 and Colossians chapter 4? And I think there's a 2 Timothy. And really, most of the time, the critics are only going to give you Philemon. He's a very obscure character. He's not somebody who's likely you're going to invent. He's not even an apostle. He's a companion of an apostle. And there's so much good historical detail in this account that shows that he's a traveling companion of Paul, that something like the traditional authorship claim has to be correct. It has to be correct. And so Luke is a very unlikely invention. And there's so much historical detail that corroborates Luke that it's ridiculous. Again, I mentioned I'd recommend some resources. Colin Hemmer, The Book of Acts in the Setting of Hellenistic History is one of them. There's also William Paley's got a book, Horai Pollini, which goes into all the undesigned coincidences. People can actually download for free because it's public domain. There's all that confirmation. And the critics' arguments, like Ehrman's, some of them that I went through, are just not good. And so something like the traditional authorship for Acts Luke have to be true. Does that make sense?
So are you even ready to debate Bart Herman? No.
All right, D-Dot, I'm gonna let you go, bro.
Bro, I'm not challenging you. I'm not challenging you.
This isn't who is Testify gonna debate. Is he gonna debate Bart? Is he gonna debate whatever? I don't think Bart is gonna come after somebody like me, honestly. So all right, man. If you don't have another question about Acts, I'm a keep
Okay, bro.
moving.
The last question, which I wanted to tell you, the last question.
All right.
I was waiting, but it's a long question. Please listen.
Okay.
So I told a channel with my own name, somebody, these are the apologetics. Somebody, I told you. He has like 600 subscribers and he made kind of 300 videos on you. Every video is getting like
All right,
500,
man, all right.
200.
I gotta cut you off. right. Take care, bro.
Bro.
So he's made the videos against you. What are you going to do? I don't know. I'm not gonna, guys. If I responded to everybody who made a video against me, like that's all I would do. It's like who cares? Like I'm gonna continue to make the case against Islam. I'm gonna continue to make the case against other Unitarian views that are rivals to Christianity. I'm gonna continue to make videos against atheism, and I'm going to make a bunch of videos arguing for the historical reliability of the Gospels. And so, if every time somebody makes a response video to something, like I'm not going to drop everything. Most of these responses are just like face palmy and really poor, in my opinion. If somebody makes a good one, I would invite them to have a conversation with me. I don't do response videos. I invite people to have a conversation, not a moderated debate, a conversation with me. And if they don't want to do that, like, man, that's on them. That's on them. Like I'm willing to have a conversation. And so, so there's a lot of Muslims in the comments. A lot of Muslims in the comments. I see the scripture plug. Albert, hey, my brother. I appreciate all the plugs and keep doing what you do, bro. You highlight a lot of good stuff, and so I appreciate seeing you here. D Dot, there's no way, bro. He's trying to come back up. All right. So, yeah, this is fun, man. This is interesting. This is different. I appreciate you guys again going through some of the growing pains. So ASDF, you have to tell me. I see you in the studio there, brother. Are you a non-Christian? If you're a non-Christian, I would ask you to leave. No offense. You can ask me questions in the comments, but this is for conversations with non-Christians. So I need a thumbs up if you're a non-Christian. It should take 2 seconds. 1, 2. I didn't see a thumbs up. I saw 2 fingers. Try again. If you try, that was a thumbs up. That is not. I think that was a. You are a non-Christian. Okay. Musa, he's coming with a different name. All right. ASDF, what you got, bro?
I'm going to quote the Deuteronomy 13 false prophet test. Could you please open it?
Say what?
Could you open Deuteronomy 13?
Oh, Deuteronomy 13. Okay. So which point? I know Deuteronomy 13. Which point? Are you Jewish?
If a prophet, yes.
Okay.
If a prophet comes to you and says, "Let us follow other gods you have not known, and let us worship him," you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere.
Okay.
Therefore, we cannot follow other gods that Jewish people back in the times of Moses did not know.
Okay.
I will ask you, were the concept of Trinity were known to Jewish community before Jesus Christ?
Okay, so is this is topical? Okay, this is not a bad topic. I agree that this is a good topic, but is this on topic with Paul being a false apostle?
Paul created the topic that Jesus was God, and we must.
Did Paul create that?
The earliest records of the Trinity and Jesus being God and the divine Son of God are in the letters of Paul.
But did he create it, or did he inherit it?
Did he create it?
Did he create it, or did he inherit it?
That's a topic. That is a
did
topic.
Did he create it, or did he inherit it?
I think he created it.
Okay, what's your evidence for that he created
it? Could you show that one verse that Jesus says, "I am God," or "Follow me and worship another God," besides Yahweh?
Would Jesus' own disciples, who did say that he was God, get his message so wrong 50 days after he was crucified? Because I'm keeping it on Acts. I'm keeping it on Acts because I'm keeping things on topic. Okay, so we're just running at this point. What are we doing? So, think about it. If Acts is a historically reliable account, that also destroys the Jewish narrative that Paul is some kind of false apostle, right? Because what? He met with the Jerusalem apostles. They endorsed his message. What did the Jerusalem apostles preach day one after receiving the Holy Spirit? That Jesus is Lord. You killed the Prince of Life, the author of life. The author. Who else is the author of life if not God? And what did they do? They crucified him, and God rose him from the dead. He was resurrected by the power of God. These were Jews. Did they see this as a foreign God, as a foreign innovation? Also, is not the Trinity also in the Old Testament? You guys have seen this. If you watch anything on apologetics for the past, I don't know, however long, you know that the Trinity, that there is multiplurality within the Godhead, starting in Genesis 1 when he creates man. We see it in the angel. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to publish it Monday on the Trinity in the Old Testament. So you guys can wait for that. I won't spill all the candy out of the bag on that. And so let's take some questions, see if anybody else wants to come up. At least we got some callers this time, but hopefully we'll get a little better quality there. So is John 21 a forgery, Wayne Geese? No, I don't think it's a forgery. I don't think it's a forgery at all. It does seem to be like maybe a later edition of that, but it's not a forgery. It says that if anything, the way that they talk in verse 21 through 24 about that we know this disciple's message is true is just saying that what we're reporting right now is based on eyewitness testimony. And so it was never suspected to be a forgery in the early church. It's not written in any sort of different style or anything else like that. There's nothing in there that would make me think that it's a forgery. Let's see if there's any more. Will I do a video on agnosticism? You know who's got a really good video on agnosticism? It's a small channel from somebody who I would consider to be like a mentor and friend, Lydia McGrew. And just look it up. Lydia McGrew is Agnosticism Safe. Great book or great video. So she talks about that. Yeah, maybe one day I will do a video about agnosticism. But yeah, I don't have a current plan to do it. But just I was an agnostic for a while, but then I kind of realized like, no, this is something you could either know or not know. I don't think it's impossible to know. Because there's either evidence for it or against it, and it's not beyond our understanding to know. And so let's see. Hey, Testify, what do you think about the skeptic who goes by non-alchemist? I think he's a troll, and I've seen that he hasn't been posting for a while, and that's a good thing, honestly. And so I would say this though, like he's not like completely unintelligent in terms of like the arguments, the philosophical arguments against God. And so, but his attitude and his demeanor towards apologists is just strangely snide. And I think that his arguments are easily kind of answered. I almost thought about responding to his video on David Hume. I don't know why skeptics are still trotting out David Hume as if his argument against miracles, even if it's been updated, is any good. I have videos on that if you guys want to check those out. But it just, his whole demeanor just is a bit odd. And I've seen some of the ways that he trolls people. You know what? These aren't even kind of the conversations that I really want to be answering. I don't like the whole response kind of stuff. It's not my cup of tea. There's a reason why I don't do response videos anymore, because I don't really like them. It leads to all of this kind of I don't know, rudeness and snideness and different things like that. Now you might be like, well, testify, you depict the prophet in a pretty snide way. Well, that's that prophet, and I have reasons for doing that. But I'm not just trying to openly point out particular Muslims and call them out and try and dunk on them. That's just not my particular thing. And so there's nothing wrong with replying to them. I just find that for me at least, it devolves into, it's too easy to slip into the getting personal about it and insulting their intelligence or their character. And they'll do it towards me, and I'll find myself wanting to do it towards them, and it's just no fun. So Gaius, I see you up. You probably take this last one. If you are a non-Christian, just if you can, turn your camera on or send me a private chat and confirm, and I will let you up. Gaius Caligula. Oh, of all the guys you could pick, Caligula. That guy was up there with Nero. All right, bro, you got to give me something. Got 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. You are kicked, my friend. Sorry, bro. You got to respond. If you're going to come up, you guys got to respond. Nick says, Eric, thanks for your advice on online ministry the other day on God Logic's 200K stream. I've decided to dig through the Skeptics Bible website as a start. A list of 650 supposed contradictions. Nick, I'm going to give you some more advice. I hope you don't mind this advice. I hope you don't. First of all, thank you so much for the super chat. And second of all, I'm really thankful that you're interested in apologetics and taking some advice and diving in. The Skeptics Bible are going to bring up a lot of really weak and silly contradictions that aren't even contradictions at all. Like goofy stuff like, well, this passage says that nobody's seen God, but this passage says that people have seen God, and all this kind of silly stuff. And you want to be careful about the whole fallacy of objections. If you can give people a bunch of reasons for a particular view, then as I was kind of alluding to earlier, it kind of by default kills some of the objections. And so even if there were like a handful of decent contradictions against, say, the Gospels or Acts, that wouldn't nullify all the avalanche of positive evidence that we have for the Gospels and Acts. And so if you love going after contradictions, I would probably recommend just going through Bart Ehrman's book. I think it's Jesus Interrupted. It's a different one. Maybe it is Jesus Interrupted. I don't know. He's got one on contradictions. Maybe somebody in the chat can correct me. I have basically all of his popular level books. I'm just getting them mixed up right now. Go through those. And I think that would be a little more fruitful because Bart is like the scholar that the YouTubers are going to punt to. But also get all the positive evidence for the reliability of the Gospels that you can. Now, maybe you already have, and I'm not assuming that you haven't. But a good offense is also a good defense. You know what I mean? If I outscore the opponents 50-10, great. Yeah, I won. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, get that positive case first, and then maybe go through Bart's best objections and tear those apart. And if you want book recommendations, go to the description of any of my other videos. Not this particular video, I haven't added those details yet, but any of my other videos, I have a list of books that you can actually go through. And I think those would help you a lot. And so please join. We need more. The harvest is great, but the laborers are few. So yeah. If you have questions, just ask them. Some people are asking, can I ask a question? Well, you just did, as I tell my young students. And so, but if you are a non-Christian, you want to come up, you got 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna wind it down. If you have a question in the chat, if you can do a super chat, that's helpful. Again, you don't have to, but just type Q and your question, but it needs to be at least relatively on topic. All right. Ali Dean, I believe this guy was up earlier. I said he could come on up. Hope I'm not keeping you awake, brother. So what you got for me? We're talking about Paul, apostle, yay or nay?
I'm sorry, am I coming clear?
Yeah, I can.
Am I coming?
Well, you're not on camera, but you're up.
No, I'll turn off the camera. Sorry. How about now?
No, you're good. You're good.
So,
What you got?
Thank you very much.
What you got, bro?
Actually, I came when you were.
Yeah, I remember.
before you
That's why I
started.
brought. That's why I brought
Good.
you up. We chatted
Yeah,
in the
okay.
private chat for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Actually, that's my first time to join your channel, and I don't know much about you. You see, so
okay.
I was supposed to sleep. It's almost 2 a.m. here.
Oh no! I hope I'm not giving you insomnia.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Don't worry. No worries. So actually, I watched the end of your presentation before I joined you live. I just went back and I've seen you quoting some verses from the Holy Quran, like quoting chapter 3, verse 55, chapter 61, verse 14.
Yeah.
And after that, yeah. So if you don't mind me, I would like to correct some of the thoughts, mistakes that you said about those verses, if you don't mind me, please.
I mean, yeah, you're welcome to try and rebut me. That's the point.
Okay. So first of all, what you have done here, you just got chapter 3, Surah Al-Imran, verse 55, and then you quote chapter 61, Surah As-Saff, verse 14. You try to combine them together just to prove to everybody that the disciples of Jesus were victorious over their enemy. So therefore, those are, like others says, the Christians, so therefore they were victorious over Muslims. Please allow me to correct you.
I mean, you're welcome to make your case, bro.
Yeah, I'm not here to make my case. I'm here to correct you if you don't mind me with respect. If it's okay with you. Okay.
Well, you're welcome to attempt to correct me. Sure.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I'm
Thank
welcome
you.
to respond.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for being so kind. Actually, you quote Quran, Surah As-Saff, chapter 61, verse 10, and Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 55. You say it's all started on Surah 61, verse 14, that the Christians are superior over the Muslim. This proves, I'm sorry with all due respect, how you lack knowledge about the Holy Quran. Because according to the chronological order of Surah, chapter 3, Al-Imran, was revealed to Prophet Muhammad before chapter 61, Surah As-Saff. Surah Al-Imran was number 89, and Surah As-Saff was number 109. So chapter
there's I mean, we don't have to get into all this too much, but there's some dispute about that, right? Like, that's not as cut and dried as people make it out to be. And even Muslim scholars will admit that they're not exactly, they have a pretty good idea, but some of this is hypothesizing, and they're hypothesizing outside of the Quran to come up with when these particular surahs were. They're just their best guess.
You see, that's not the best guess. You asked me to refute you, and I accepted that. So I'm trying to answer you.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, let's talk. Go ahead. Talk about 61:14, though. I'm interested in what you guys say.
I'm coming to it. I'm coming to 61:14. I'm coming to 3:55.
Okay, take it easy, my friend. Take it easy. We're good.
No,
we're good.
Easy.
We're good. I'm teasing. You. You're fine. Go ahead, bro.
I'm very easy.
Yeah, I know you're probably tired, so I'll just.
It's 2 a.m. here. I'm talking to you while everybody around me is sleeping.
Yeah, no, I understand. Sure. No, you're good.
Okay, so chapter 3, verse 55. You quote text out of context. The context actually starts from verse number 51. Christ says to his disciples, God, Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship him alone. This is the straight path. Then the disciples respond to Jesus and say that they are Muslims who submit to Allah alone, and they declare the gospel, which is the Injil that was revealed to Jesus. Allah said in verse 55, he will make the Muslims disciples, and Allah said that he will make Muslim disciples and the Muslims followers of Jesus superior to those who disbelieved until the day of resurrection. Disciples of Jesus and his followers are Muslims who declare that they are Muslims and they submit to Allah alone, not to Trinity. And Allah even declared them being a Muslim clearly in the Holy Quran in chapter 5, verse 111, where Allah says,
I quoted that one too.
That's why.
Okay, so where is the Muslim? Where are the Muslim disciples in any historical record?
With all due respect to you, can you please give me first the name of the disciples that you believe in as a Christian? Can you name them to me, please?
The 12?
Yeah.
Sure. You have Peter, James, John. You have Simon. You have Thaddeus. You have Matthew. You have the 12.
No, neither. You want me to name them for you? I'll name them for you. Simon, who is Peter, Andrew, his brother, James, John, his brother, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew,
Right.
James.
I'm not
Okay.
looking up the verse. I don't have all 12 numbers.
Now I'm asking you, can you see the name of Paul among those names?
Right. But if you were awake for the part that I talked about all throughout the book of Acts, Paul was acknowledged by the disciples. Paul was accepted by the disciples. Paul was sent by the disciples. Barnabas vouched for Paul and took him to the disciples. So every single time that we see Paul, we have historical record of, the disciples are accepting him, acknowledging him, and preaching the same message that he is. And I gave dozens of reasons why we should think that Acts, not just because I think it's an inspired scripture, Holy Bible, Word of God, but through history. But what your problem is you have zero evidence of any Muslim disciples preaching whatever the Muslim gospel supposedly is, backing you, while I have an avalanche of evidence for it. Also, these guys were supposed to be uppermost until the day of resurrection. That's not, if I can't find any historical record of what they preached, and a completely different gospel is the one that became uppermost, the gospel that Paul preached, then Allah lied. He did not fulfill what he said that he was going to do. That's your problem. That's the conundrum. That's the dilemma that you find yourself in. How were they uppermost until the day of resurrection when we have zero trace of any of them, even their message? And we have a record, a historically reliable record in the book of Acts, again, which I gave numerous lines of support for, that it's a historical record, that Paul and Peter and the 12 were on the same page. They preached the same gospel. They were persecuted for the same message, and they spread that message in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the earth.
You see, Mr. Total Jahil, I don't know, I will call you Total Jahil. Is this your name? Really, Total Jahil?
it's a joke because, yeah, it's what you guys say that I am. I'm a total.
No, I told you I don't know you. That's my first time to see you, or join you, or speak to you.
No, it's a joke. It's just me being self-deprecating.
So what do you want me to call you?
You just call me Eric. My name's Eric.
Okay, Eric, good. And you can call me Ali. That's my real name, by the way.
Okay.
Eric, I just asked you a very simple question. And what you have done, you preached me. I did not interrupt you. I did not cut you off. I did not speak over you. I even muted myself. Now I ask you a very simple question. Please do answer my question. Can you see the name of Paul according to the Bible with the 12 disciples that the Bible named?
No, but the disciples themselves send them. So if you go here, Allah, do you have access to the internet right now? Are you in front of a screen?
Yeah, I'm using my laptop and I'm okay. So
okay.
And just make your point, please. I'm listening to you. Usually, okay. I don't like to interrupt the person who's talking, so I would like to
listen that's fine.
To you.
Let me read you a verse. Now in the church at Antioch, this is Acts 13:1-4, there were prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon, called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been brought up under Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. While they were worshiping, now I'm going to give you another verse after this, so just bear with me. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me." The Holy Spirit, who is the voice of God speaking, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work that I have called them." So after they fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off. And then they went and preached the gospel. Now, if you go to Acts chapter 15, it said, I don't have the verse number in front of me. Let me get the verses real quick. We want the scripture. What does the scripture say? Or at least what does the account say? Okay, so it says, this is at the council at Jerusalem. They're talking about the Gentiles. And they say, the apostles and elders, the whole church, decided to choose some of their own men and send them to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas. They chose Judas, called Barsabbas, and Silas, men who were leaders among the believers. So not only are they, and then it also says in verse 12, the whole assembly became silent as they listened to Barnabas and Paul telling about the signs and wonders that God had done among the Gentiles through them. And when they finished up, James spoke up. James, Jesus' brother from the Jerusalem church, which, by the way, you Muslims tend to like James a little bit. But he's not called one of the 12, but he's one of Jesus' brothers. And he says, James spoke up, brothers, listen to me. Simon has showed us how God first intervened to choose people for his name. And then he talks about the whole Gentiles. And so that's the context. I'm just giving you a little bit of context, right? And so then they send Paul off with people helping him to preach a gospel. Why would they send Paul off if he's a corrupter? And they don't think that he's preaching the same kind of message they are. And they don't accept his ministry. Why are they sending him off to the Gentiles and saying, this is the messages that we want you to give to them? And why does it seemingly show that they're accepting him as actually preaching the same gospel that they're preaching and working miracles?
You are done.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
so,
it.
Okay. So I hope that you will let me speak and you will let me talk.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Actually, when I was trying to answer the first question, the first verses that you got from the Holy Quran, you interrupted me before I end up a while ago.
Well, I'll try not to.
And I stopped. I did not even speak, and I did not finish. I just started to speak. This is your stream. This is your show, your stream. So I'm your guest, and I have to follow your rules, right? So I hope this time you allow me to answer the second point that you brought up. About the Holy Quran. Thank you very much. God bless you. You see, I asked you if Paul was one of the disciples of Jesus or not with those 12 names. You said no. And that's good enough for me. Now, what you have done a while ago, you were reading the Holy Quran during your presentation in a Christian context to suit your needs. You are not reading the Holy Quran in Islamic context as we Muslims read it.
Mm-hmm.
Just you present the Holy Quran according to your understanding. You said at the end of your presentation, those whom Jesus, son of Mary, sent both disciples, Peter and Paul. And you said that about the Holy Quran, that the Holy Quran said that they sent, Paul was
No. I'm sorry, not to interrupt. I just want to correct this one thing and I'll let you finish, okay? I said Al-Qaturbi.
Yes, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to Al-Qurtubi. That's what I'm talking about.
That's who you're quoting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, that's why I hope that you can have some patience like you do. I'm so patient.
Oh, well, I'm patient. Don't worry.
And by the way, Eric, I'm not as young as you are. I am 60 years old.
Oh, okay? That's okay. I'm
60 years old.
You're
so
fine,
please
brother.
be patient with So please be patient with me as I am patient with you. I'm listening to you, so please listen to me. I know that you got Al-Qurtubi. I'm coming to it. And I know that you said that Al-Qurtubi said that. I know that. And I'll tell you what did Al-Qurtubi say this in the Islamic interpretation.
Sure.
What you were talking about chapter 36 of the Holy Quran, verse 14. Allah said, إِذْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ اثْنَيْنِ فَكَذَّبُوهُمَا فَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِثٍ فَقَالُوا إِنَّا إِلَيْكُمْ مُرْسَلُونَ. Which means, we sent to them 2 messengers, and they rejected both of them as liars. Then we strengthened them with a 3rd. Now, Tafsir al-Qurtubi said Paul, in Islamic interpretation of the Holy Quran, was sent by Christ as the 3rd messenger to the village of Antioch, because they rejected Christ according to the Islamic perspective. But according to the Christian faith, the village of Antioch was one of the first villages that had accepted Christ. Islam said during the time of Jesus Christ on earth, Jesus Christ sent one of his companions, one of his friends, named Paul, to Antioch because they rejected Christ. But in Christianity, Paul was an enemy of Christ when Christ was on earth. And Paul, for the Christian, came after the time of Christ, not during the time of Christ on earth, which contradicts Christian faith. So how can Christ send Paul and Paul was his enemy and came after him. Having the name Paul in the Islamic interpretation of the Holy Quran does not mean that he is the same person.
Okay,
If you,
so
let me finish, please.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Just checking.
Yeah, please, just give me another couple of minutes.
Okay.
So, if you consider him the same person, that contradicts Christianity. I'll give you one simple example from the Bible. For example, in the Bible, you have the name of John, more than one person. Doesn't mean they are the same person. Matthew chapter 3, verse 1, you have John the Baptist, son of Zechariah. Matthew chapter 4, verse 21, you have John, the son of Zebedee, one of the 12 apostles with his brother James. John 21:15, you have John, the father of the apostle Simon, Peter, Andrew. Acts 12, up to the end. So they are not the same John, so they are different John.
So let
me finish, please. Just
sure. I was just going to ask you a clarifying question. So are you saying there's two different Pauls?
Yeah, the one I'm telling you, the Paul that the Quran spoke about is different than the Paul that is. If you speak Arabic actually, or if you read Arabic and you go to the interpretation, the Arabic language, and the interpretation of the Bible about Paul in the Arabic Christian Bible, you will find even the spelling totally different. The spelling is totally different. The name is totally different. And I just showed you.
Brother, so where historically do we have any record of this other Paul other than who are you quoting?
I'm quoting Al-Qurtubi, that's the one you quote. I'm reading what now can I finish, please? You see, interrupted me to prove to you that he's not the same Paul before I finish.
Okay, you got 30 seconds. Can you
30 seconds is too much. Don't worry. It will not take 20 seconds.
Okay.
Quran chapter 4, verse 171. In this verse, Al-Qurtubi said in his commentary, Paul was a Jew and was one of Christ's biggest enemy and killed many of Christ's companions and followers. Paul said, if the truth is with Jesus, then we have disbelieved and denied him. And our destiny is to the fire, and I will continue to deceive them and mislead them, and they will enter hellfire, and I will kill them. So that's what Al-Qurtubi told you in chapter 4, verse 1 about Paul. So he's different, Paul.
All right.
Okay.
Am I good now?
I hope that is
okay. Why should I accept Al-Qurtubi's account? It's historically reliable. When is Al-Qurtubi writing?
Excuse me, it's you who use Al-Qurtubi, not me. Did I use Al-Qurtubi?
Okay.
You use Al-Qurtubi to prove that Islam mentioned the name of Paul and said that Paul was sent by Jesus. So I'm correcting you that Paul mentioned the name of Paul, but the Paul that you are referring to in another verse in the Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 71.
Okay, I got you. I'm understanding. We're on the same page. Okay, so let's just say you corrected me, and that's wrong. Now, I would like to look at those sources myself, because I'm not familiar with the task sphere that you're quoting here. Okay,
excuse me, Eric.
Bro, you gotta let me. I let you talk. I was very, I was very respectful. I let you talk. So now it's my turn. I know you said you corrected me, but now I'm.
No. In the Arabic language, you missaid something. You said tasfir.
Whatever. So yeah, okay. We're being pedantic. We're being pedantic at this point. Hey, look, I'm a total jahil. Remember? All right. So let me respond. Okay. And so, why would I? Even if that's correct, even if everything you said was right, and I butchered your guy. All right. I butchered your commentator. Why would I take his word for it that there are two different historical Pauls versus all of the early church history that came from hundreds and hundreds of years earlier, which I just spent 45 minutes defending as historical, reliable narrative. And we actually do have Paul's authentic letters that even critical scholars will say, yeah, we have at least 7 of his letters. I would argue that we have 13. And the ones that I used are out of the 13. So even if I grant your argument, all that does is say, well, Eric's stupid and he doesn't understand Qurtubi and he can't pronounce tasfir. So what? That doesn't tell me that Paul is a false apostle. I'm giving positive evidence that Paul was accepted by the church, sent by the church, endorsed by the church, and it's all recorded in a historical, reliable account. So I have Luke, who I can actually verify with multiple lines of evidence through history, and I'd encourage you to go back and watch the stream, versus Muhammad, who doesn't even mention Paul at all. There's nothing in the Hadith that mentioned Paul. And your Quran seems to say that these guys are going to be successful till the day of resurrection. And I have zero evidence of any people preaching Islam. And I have ample evidence. Why would I change my view to yours when I have all this evidence on my side and I got nothing burger on your side? No historical record of any of Jesus's disciples preaching a Muslim message. Does that make sense?
Okay. First of all, I was not trying to interrupt you in any way when you said
No, you're fine. You're good. You're totally respectful. You're polite. You're all good. We're good. Don't even worry about that. We don't have to keep talking about the tone.
No,
of the
actually,
conversation.
with all due respect to you, Eric, I'm not trying here to insult or abuse you. Honestly, I'm trying to correct you because you mispronounced one word. Do you know what is the meaning of tasfir?
Fill me in, brother. I should probably know this. I said I'm a jahil, so I'm just trying to read your books and go, why would I change my mind when I have all this evidence from my book?
Please? Can you answer my question, please? Kindly, we don't have to talk now.
I just think it means to. It just means to. It's like an explanation. It's a commentary, right?
No, you are mistaken.
It's not to explain.
No, tasfir means deportation. Tasfir means deportation. The word means commentary is tafsir. So it is tafsir, not tasfir. Okay? So that was trying to correct. That's one of the reasons that I cut you off a while ago. So please, next time, remember it. Actually, you are not the only one. There are so many non-Arab Christian apologists who they always say tasfir. You are not the only one.
Oh, maybe I'm getting from them. I don't know.
So it is tafsir. That's why you heard them saying tasfir. So you repeat. If you have any Arab Christian friend, ask him what is the difference between tasfir and tafsir, and explain it. Now, number two, you asked me a question. You said, why should I take what Al-Qurtubi said, that there are two different poles? Now, as you take and testify and use Al-Qurtubi for mentioning the name of Paul in Islamic interpretation, and you yourself quote it, which is in chapter 36, verse 14, and you accept it because it suits your needs. Now, after I answered you and I showed you that Al-Qurtubi said in chapter 4 of the Holy Quran, verse 171, that there is a different Paul. So therefore now, you don't want to accept Al-Qurtubi. So you contradicted yourself by yourself. If you don't accept Al-Qurtubi,
right, and I said,
why did you quote?
Hold on, because I just said, but I already conceded your point. I said, for the sake of argument, let's say that you're right, and I toss Al-Qurtubi. I don't use that in my presentation anymore. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument that I do that, right? According to your book, I'm going to hell, and you're making a claim, or at least Islam is making a claim that Christianity is false and your book is true. But I have all this evidence that the earliest Christian apostles were preaching the death, burial, and resurrection and deity of Christ. And also I read your book just through whatever you might say my lens is wrong. But if I read your book at face value, 355 and 6114, it says that they will be elevated over the disbelievers until the day of judgment, and that they would become dominant. And I don't see any dominant Muslim disciple message anywhere for 700 years. So I'm reading your book, and then I'm also looking at my book and all the historical confirmation that it has, details of archaeology, names of local officials, titles, all kinds of descriptions of history that I can actually go through and verify. And I see that in this account, these men are risking their lives for something they couldn't even possibly be mistaken about, because they touched him, they ate with him, Jesus, after his resurrection. They talked to him in groups, and he ascended into heaven right in front of them. And they saw that he was crucified. They know that he was crucified. He says, "Look feel me and see that I'm flesh and bone here." And so, why would I throw my Bible in the trash, or not even in the trash? Why would I reject what it seems to very clear what I'm seeing and pick up the Quran and go, no, this is the actual, more historically reliable account that really gives me the truth about Jesus. Why? That's the point. It's not about, well, you got something wrong about Quaterby. Okay, maybe I'm totally willing to grant you that. Let's just say that I am. That's not going to move me towards Islam at all. And I have all the evidence on my side, and I don't see any evidence on your side.
Okay. Now, first of all, you started by saying that Quran said that you will go to hellfire because you're Christian. That's what you said at the beginning. With all the respect to you, my friend, for me as a Muslim also, I'm going to the eternal hellfire according to the Bible. And you read this in Matthew.
I appreciate that you're willing to admit that.
Yeah. Can I finish, please?
Of course. I'm not being rude. I'm just saying I appreciate that you admit that.
Now, for you as a Christian, according to the Bible, me as a Muslim, I will go to the eternal hellfire. And you can read this in Matthew chapter 10, verse 28, Matthew chapter 25, verse 41, Matthew chapter 25, verse 46, Revelation chapter 21, verse 8, Revelation chapter 20, verse 15, and so many others. Say that unbelievers, disbelievers, they will go into the everlasting punishment, everlasting hellfire.
Right.
So for you, I'm hellfire. So this is a topic that me and you should not talk about because we both agree upon. Okay. Number one. Number two, with all due respect to you, my friend, you were, I don't know how to say that in English because English is my fourth language. If I was mistaken, please correct me as I corrected you in Arabic. You were listening to me, but were not hearing me from the beginning because you quote.
I think I'm hearing you. I think I'm understanding you.
No.
I'm trying to. Right. No, your point, if I could reiterate it, is you're the main thing that you told me so far is I'm supposedly, and you could be right, and it's fine if you're right. And I'm, like I already said, I'm willing to grant that somehow I'm butchering Quaterby. I don't know if I am. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I'm not familiar with the commentary of those verses. I will look those up. That's fine. That's instructional. Maybe that's helpful to me. If that's correct, sure, fine. I still think the 355 and 6114 seem to be saying what I'm seeing. And I'm saying I have all this historical evidence backing the claims of Christianity. And so that's what I really want to discuss. Not so much, did I get the test? I might say it wrong again. Taft sphere wrong. You corrected me on that earlier. Whatever. Like, okay, let's just say you're right. Totally fine. Go ahead. Thank you for the correction. But do you see what I'm saying? I don't want you to feel disrespected at all. I'm just saying, like, why should I reject Paul? Because that's what the topic of this stream is about.
You see, I was talking and you cut me off again, and I was listening. When I said that you were listening, but you were not sharing to me because you keep quoting chapter 3, verse 51. I'm sorry, chapter 3, verse 55, and chapter 61, Surah As-Saf, verse 14. I actually answered you, and I gave you the Islamic perspective, the Islamic context.
And I think that the Islamic perspective is wrong.
So you are telling me that you understand Islam and Quran better than
No, I'm saying Islam is false, and I'm saying that your prophet.
Okay, I know Islam is false.
I'm saying that your prophet did not know what was actually in the Gospels. I don't think that he actually knew what Jesus's message was. I think he really thought that the disciples were supporters of Allah and spread the message. I don't think he knew what the Injil even was.
Actually, if you read
go ahead.
Actually, you see, I'm telling you, you were listening, but not hearing to me. Islam told you what is the message of Jesus, and I quote the verse from the Holy Quran when I was answering your claim about chapter 355 and 6114. And I said that you quote chapter 355 takes out of context. You have to read from number 48. Then one of the messages said, Jesus said, let me finish, please. I mean, I'm concentrating here when you.
We're having a conversation. Sometimes somebody says something, you think, and you say something. If you interrupt me, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not offended by interruptions. I'm not being rude.
Excuse me, Eric. I don't want to be rude here. But someone been writing you several texts in the private chat. Read it, please.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen it? He's
Let me
challenging you.
check.
He's challenging you for a debate in the private chat.
Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, he want to join you and he want to discuss with you. Anyway,
Okay, yeah.
it's 2:30 a.m. here on my place.
Yeah, you know what, brother? Maybe we're at an impasse. And I
enjoyed talking to you. Nice
Yeah.
talking to you. Nice meeting you. So I hope that me and you can have a discussion. Let's say next time, if it's okay with you, we can exchange mic back and forth 3 minutes. Is Jesus God, for example?
Sure.
Can you prove to me that Jesus is God? So can we do it, me and you, 3 minutes each, back and forth? We have an open discussion.
I'll tell you what, brother. I know I'll probably be live a lot of times at night for you. So, but if you see me live one time, I'm doing these topical things. You're respectful, you're polite. I appreciate you. You're welcome to come back up. If I'm talking about the deity of Christ on that particular episode, which is very likely to happen, I'm sure that'll be a topic that comes up. Then yeah, man, I would be happy to have you, and I appreciate you coming up. And yeah, man, have a good night and
Well,
be
thank
blessed,
you
brother.
very much. I was hoping that me and you can have a specific day that we will speak about this specific topic. But you said, if you okay, I accept
Sure.
what you are saying. Thank you very much. God bless you, and good night to everybody. If I say something wrong that offended you, I do apologize. That was not my intention.
Nope.
Honestly.
You're a good guy. You're a good guy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Yep. Bye. Okay, Alexander. Now I want to let you know real quick, Brody. I am not just talking about any old topic. I'm talking about whether Paul is a false apostle or not, and I don't think you would disagree with me about that, even if you are Jehovah's Witness.
I completely agree with you. So,
okay,
probably not the best. Okay,
yeah,
so I probably join in another time, or what do you want?
If I'm talking about the deity of Christ, sure, absolutely, bud.
Okay, so about the deity of Christ.
No. If I am later, if I have a show on the deity of Christ, you're welcome to come back.
Okay, I will come back then. Thank you.
All right, thanks, bud. All right, Hawk responds. I can do maybe one more. I'll probably wrap it up. We're at the 2-hour mark. Hey, got some callers. All right, I mean, it's better than last time. So, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, guys, if I'm reading this verse, remember when Allah said, "Oh, Jesus, I will take you and raise you to myself and deliver you from those who disbelieve and elevate your followers above the disbelievers." Elevate your followers until the day of judgment. Where are these followers? Where are they at? Where is the Muslim gospel? Where was it being preached? Where do we have any record of it? Why should I take this idea that they were successful, they preached this message when there's no historical record of it whatsoever, and I have a perfectly reliable historical record in the book of Acts that I was able to defend with tons of different evidence, right? And if you really think about it, why would Allah allow something like that to happen, to be lost, but allow this other corrupt message supposedly propagate and become dominant? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Hawk responds again. If you're in the private chat, you need to let me know that you're a Muslim. I'm assuming you are by that name. Or you need to come on camera and just give me a thumbs up if you want to come up. If not, I'm going to wrap up here. So I'll give you a few minutes, or few seconds, but you gotta talk to me, bro. Papa Daddy, I've left your thing up. Pull up Sahih Muslim 2767. I know that one. I did a short on that one. They do believe in substitutionary atonement. The Jews and Christians are in hell, so a Muslim can get out, which is just bonko bananas. I mean, what even is that? What even is that? Let me see if I still have it. I'll read it. That's such a wild verse. It's not the topic of the verse. Wild hadith, I should say. It's not the topic of this live, but there would come from amongst the Muslims on the day of resurrection with as heavy sins as a mountain, and Allah would forgive them, and he would place in their stead The Jews and the Christians. Just so, yeah. Because he admitted, he said, I'm going to hell too. But he believes, as far as I understand, he's welcome to come back up and correct me at another show if we do talk about that. But he's going to hell too. It's just that he'll get out. But the Jew and the Christians, they're not getting out. In fact, they're going in as a substitute for the Muslim. Wow. I mean, it's just that's wild, man. That's wild. Did somebody say that's weak? Yeah, weak Sahih. If you want to be Quran only, that's up to you. But I'm just quoting. We just read. All right. Well, I don't see anybody else here. And yeah, the scripture plug said it the best. In Islam, I'm the Muslim savior from sin. Yikes. I mean, that seems to be what that hadith says. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope this was informative, and I really appreciate you coming up. To all those who came up, the guests, thank you so much. And somebody says, Zero Cal, can I come up? It's about Paul. The link is at the top. You cannot be a Christian. You have to be a Muslim, or at least somebody who rejects Paul. But anyways, if you want to support the channel, guys, patreon.com/isjesusalive, not Testify. It's just something, the name of the blog that I had before Testify was a thing. And so, all right, Zero Cal, hit the link. Come on up. But anyways, yeah, that's the way to support me. If this ministry blesses you in any kind of way, with the short videos, the shorts, doing lives, dipping my toe in the water. Again, I'm sorry if today was a little sloppy during the presentation. There were a lot of trolls manifesting. Again, it just seems like you talk about the Apostle Paul being a genuine apostle, and everybody starts to kind of lose their mind and act crazy at the same time. So I'll do better about getting mods and not being distracted. But hopefully that stuff helped you, because there is so much good information on the book of Acts. It's just crazy. We have a wealth of information. We have a wealth of information that shows that these guys were the dominant guys spreading that message. And so why would we take Muhammad's word that some Islamic version of the disciples were the ones that were dominant when we see no hints of any of their dominance? Think about the Roman Empire. What did it become? Christian. It didn't become Muslim. In the 300s, it became Christian, right? Think about what was spread, what would have to happen before that to even happen. There were Christians all over the Roman Empire. It spread like wildfire, right? And so it's just like, where's the proof? Where's the proof? Brandon Case, I don't know if you're the same guy that was just asking if you could come up. If you are, there is a private chat. You should see it on the right. Say something in the chat, or turn your camera on, give me a thumbs up, and confirm that you are not a Christian. You reject Paul. But you got to do it quick. Quickly. I see a camera maybe coming on. I don't know if it's plugged in, bro. You don't have to be on camera necessarily. I just need a confirmation that you are not a Christian. And you reject, or you say you're a Christian, but maybe for some weird reason you reject Paul, because there are a few of people out there like that. All right, going once, going twice. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it right there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your Saturday afternoon. And like I said, if you want to support me, you can do it on Patreon. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this was educational, and I will see you on the next one.